Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Happy Half Hour. We're so glad that you could join us this morning. Before we get started, you probably have a big black screen looking at you right now. Go ahead and click Hide Stage if that is showing for you. My name is Heather Mulder. I am the Outreach Senior Manager for Banner Alzheimer's Institute, and my co-host is Janice Greeno with Banner Sun Health Research Institute. Hi, Janice.
Hi, Heather. Good morning, everybody. We're so glad that you joined us this morning.
Since I know a lot of us are new to Skype, I wanted to point out to you in the lower left corner of your screen, there's a circle with like a word bubble in it. If you click on that, you are able to type in comments or questions that you may have as we're chatting through things today. And so we may be able to respond to questions in the moment for you. But we actually created these happy half hours in response to what's happening with COVID-19 and the social distancing. We sent out a survey to all of our caregivers and family members, and they said, you know, what they really missed was connection and meaningful activities and this loss of routine that we're all feeling right now. And so happy half hours were created to infuse your morning with positivity and ideas to stay connected and stay purposeful.
And you know, this goes without saying, we do understand that people are going through extremely difficult times right now, and we don't want to downplay that at all. But we do want to lift your spirits, and we just want to give you tools and resources that will help you as you go through this journey with dementia.
So thank you, everybody, for joining us this morning. Before we dive into the topic, Janice, I want to check in with you. Last week, we talked with our colleague Amber Ayers all about accessing food and different strategies to do that. And our challenge was do one thing. How'd you do with that?
I did so good. And my family was so happy that I got this challenge. This was the best homework ever. So I actually downloaded an app and ordered food into the house. And so on Sunday, the kids were here and we all got their favorite Mexican food for lunch delivered to the door, all because of this challenge.
Nice.
What about you?
You know, I actually kind of set up a car kit. So when I do need to go into a store, I have mask, I have hand sanitizer, and everything that I need. You know, I was going to just keep it in the car, but those of us who are in the Phoenix area, it's kind of heating up here, and so I was concerned maybe that we shouldn't leave the sanitizer in the car. So it's just a little packet now that I keep in my purse and is just ready when I need it.
Oh, that's so perfect.
Yeah, and I actually used one of the store apps. I don't know if we mentioned last week, a lot of the apps that are related to stores actually have a map of the store in them. And
I don't think we talked about that.
And so when I needed to go into a store, I could put in my shopping list and it would tell me exactly where to go. So I didn't need to stay in there as long.
I've never tried that. That sounds so amazing.
Yeah. And we actually have a comment from Jennifer on here who says she tried to use Instacart for the first time and it was amazing. Awesome, Jennifer.
That is so great.
That's great. I'm glad that we're having fun with these challenges. And we're just taking small steps to improve our lives.
Exactly.
So we always like to talk about good news that we find because the news can be a little bit heavy right now. And it's important to know that there are still really incredible things happening. And Janice, I wanted to share with you, many of you probably know I'm from Illinois. And one of my friends on Facebook from Illinois invited me to join this group called Heart Hunters. And I'm pretty sure anybody can join this group, but it's just been so incredible to see. People are posting pictures of hearts that they find. And so people are coloring hearts in their driveways out of chalk with their families. People are finding hearts in the clouds, in the sky, or, you know, in the trunk of a tree. And it's been amazing to see how this has spread. You know, I know it started in rural central Illinois, but people are posting pictures from Phoenix and Sun City and Alaska and all over the world are adding to these pictures. So it's just been fun and a nice little positive feed that's popping up for me when I'm looking on Facebook too.
Oh, I love that. I want to be a heart hunter.
Do it. Look up Heart Hunters on Facebook, and you can request to join their group and add into that conversation, or just watch it happen as well.
Sure, that is awesome. I think another thing that I have loved just about social media is just watching that in the midst of all of this heartbreaking loss that people are feeling in so many ways, there are so many good things going on. There are so many creative things going on when life is interrupted. You know, like weddings are still happening, babies are being born, people are graduating, and then there's fun, creative ways that families are trying to throw a prom for their kids. It's just really fun to watch. And one of my favorite ones that I actually watched was they had a principal who went around in a graduation outfit, cap and gown, and went 500 miles to greet and celebrate all of his senior graduates. And I saw another one where there was a sheriff who was doing the same thing, going around his town, congratulating everybody, and they had staff with them, and they put signs in their yard, and they just celebrated people in the midst of this for what accomplishments these high schoolers have made. And you know, they're just going through a hard time not getting to celebrate those things, but they're making the best of it.
You know, over the weekend, I saw a story locally that was similar to that. I believe it was out in Chandler, where they had graduates from many different high schools come together, and they were lining the sidewalk, and they were all 6 feet apart, and they had their cap and gown, and a whole parade of cars came by, honking their horns, and people had made signs for them.
I missed that.
It was so powerful. I mean, it really kind of choked me up to see how people were making this effort and surprising their graduates. They would see signs that were made just for them, and how touched they were that this had been put together to celebrate what they had done and they had accomplished.
I think that's incredible. And I think that, you know, those are the kind of things, those celebration points in our lives. They're so routine, and we're so used to having them. And then to not be able to have them in the same way, it really does, but it poses an issue that we have to respond to.
Absolutely. And, you know, these are all talking about kind of the bigger routines that have been disrupted for us, you know, whether it's weddings or family reunions or Memorial Day celebrations maybe coming up. But a lot of, as I mentioned, when we did the survey, what people are really struggling with now is kind of that day-to-day routine that has been disrupted as well. And so our guest today is going to talk to us all about routine. We are so blessed to have Hella Brandt with us. She is a physician assistant with Banner Alzheimer's Institute, and some of you may recognize her name. She was with Banner Alzheimer's Institute Phoenix for many years, and now is with our new facility, Banner Alzheimer's Institute Tucson. Hella, welcome today to Happy Half Hour.
Thank you. It's fun to be here. And I want to say a very new Banner Alzheimer's Institute, because our new building is officially open as of this week.
All right.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And I just want to add one more positive note on that theme with the graduates. There's also been a strong movement of donating the gowns, and one guy's kind of been in charge of them and is donating them onto medical facilities so that they can use them as gowns for some of their workers. So the graduates' gowns have gone to good use.
Wow, that just gave me goosebumps.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it's, you know, when we talk about routine, you know, I think it's important, especially during COVID, but in general with dementia, is to really try and keep that emphasis on the positive, because it's very easy to get pulled down by all the negative that's going on, by kind of the collective anxiety and uncertainty, new that's changing day to day. So the one thing we can do is take control of what we can control, and that is our environment and our daily routine. And when we have kind of a flow to the routine, we're not talking about scheduling it out like you would have in school. You've got 30 minutes for this class and then this class, and then, oh, by the way, we have a little potty break here or something. It's a flow to the day. It's a predictability and a routine that kind of creates a sense of calmness, of reassurance, and I know what to do next. And I think the important thing is to remember that we all benefit from routine. Think of when, just as a challenge to yourself, you try to brush your teeth with the other hand rather than usual. We do things in sequence, and when we change that sequence, it feels awkward or it confuses or stresses us. And that's so true for the person with dementia. So it's about the predictability. It's about repeating the flow to the day, repeating the sequence in which we do things, even as we're getting up and getting dressed. And one thing that creates for you as caregivers is sort of, okay, I know what to do. We can get through this day. For the person with dementia, it also allows a sense of continued function, because when we continue to do things out of habit, we preserve function. When we do things infrequently, we don't have that habit, and so we tend to lose some functionality.
How interesting. And I think it's important, you touched on this already, but the benefit of routine, not just for a person with dementia, but the benefit for the caregiver as well.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Again, if we think of ourselves, our daily routine, how many times we drive to work, we drive the same route every day, and that one day that we have a doctor's appointment or we have to go somewhere else, our mind just automatically wants to make that right turn to go to work, and we have to really call it to consciousness to go the other way. So it helps us stay on task and better functioning. And even for myself as a medical professional, I do my physical exam in a set sequence so that I stay on top of it and I don't forget certain critical parts.
Helen, tell me, what does it look like? Give me an example of what a flow for a day might look like for someone who's at home in a small space.
Okay, well, let's think about this as not as big or daunting a task as it is. We already have ways in which our daily routine is scheduled, right? And that is our bedtime and our awake time. We want to make those as predictable as they can be, because that sets the tone for the day. We then anchor our day with our meal times. Okay, so really what we're talking is between those times, creating some activity and looking to kind of move within the space so that we create a sense of physical activity, a sense of social connectedness or interaction, and then just a sense of engagement in something. And just as it pays for the person with dementia to have predictability for function, I use in my head kind of activities should be of an acronym PAIS, P-A-I-S. They should be pleasurable. And by that, I mean not frustrating, not creating anxiety, not creating interactional problems, right? They should be according to their ability. So can they do it completely alone? Do they need prompts? Do we need to set it up? Do we need to do it with them? And probably we need to do a lot of it more side by side or set up right now so that we make sure things keep happening. And then we need to know about just their interests, right? It's when we look at the flow and the activities during the day, we look at what their interests have been. And particularly looking back to the many, many years ago and bringing those into the day. So a typical, and the last one, is just that we use our communication to create a sense of interest in what we're doing. Okay, so we want to say, let's move from breakfast into the living room. I thought we could look at the family album today, and I noticed we've got some cards, right? So now I'm creating a sense of my family and flow, and maybe that's the time that those of you who are savvy with technology are doing FaceTime or Skyping or Zoom with your family, or just having phone calls. In the absence of that, create a sense of family. Maybe just have some cards that, quote, came to be reviewed from friends or family, right? Postcards, birthday cards, thinking of you cards, that sort of a thing. And so you're using that time to socially interact. And then maybe it's, you know what, I feel like we should get outside. It's such a beautiful day. And before it gets too hot, right, we want to kind of remind them of the weather and get outside. So we're flowing from room to room and space to space that way.
I love the PACE acronym. Can you remind me again? P was?
Pleasure. So
pleasure.
Not frustrating or causing anxiety or, too difficult in one way or another. Ability, and the interests. And then the last one is safety. Can the task be done safely? I didn't specifically mention that, but that's kind of what I always use as a checklist. And remember, when we're picking activities too, although the person with dementia gradually loses the ability to process complex tasks, it doesn't mean that they still can't do them at some level. It means we break them down to simpler steps, or we allow them the pleasure, because those activities have to be about meaning and a purpose to people as well.
Can you talk about the importance when you're scheduling a routine? You touched on, we have these bookends and we've had these anchors of meal times and getting ready and getting to bed at night, those sorts of routines. But then the importance of considering the individual in this and what is their best time of day and how to work around that.
Yes, exactly. So whatever the most important tasks or activities for the day, they're going to be more successful if we know whether our person is a morning person or an afternoon person, for instance. So if there's something we really need to get done, we want to schedule it during that time. And then the rest of the day, another important part is to consider about mid-morning and mid-afternoon that we just create some quiet time. And that might be time that we sit on the couch. Maybe we have quiet music. And remember, music is a great activity for people. We can lift a mood, we can quiet a mood with music. Music is nostalgic, so we can create reminiscence. We can dance and create physical activity. So we can use that for a lot, but those quiet times are really important for people to kind of charge their batteries again. So that should be about quiet conversation, sitting, looking outside the window, having a simple snack, something light on TV.
I have a question for you, Hella. I noticed that when you're talking about this routine and this flow, that you're mentioning different areas of the home. So you might start in the kitchen, and then you move into the living room. Tell me about that, especially when we're looking at some folks who are in very small spaces, and then there's others of us who just might feel like the four walls are getting smaller and smaller, every day during this COVID-19.
Right.
Talk about that a little bit.
There's definitely living in small spaces and you are just on top of each other all the time. It can be very difficult, especially if you get into some interactional problems. So first is to just take a deep breath when the going gets tough, and remember you're human. This is why we want to look even at outdoor space and shifting, because it keeps us from getting settled in one space and now I'm frustrated because my person doesn't want to do something, but we're just locked into that. So when we create a flow, we move from the kitchen to the bedroom, to the kitchen, to the dining room, to the living room, back to the dining room for a snack, out to the patio. We're not having that sense of four walls crashing in on us. And there might be times that if you can set your person up with an activity, you can separate and go outside and sit on the patio or tend to some plants or whatever is important to you as a caregiver, because that's equally important. We want to keep the person with dementia as stress-free, but that's equally important with the caregiver, that they stay as stress-free as possible. And that means being, in time of COVID, being realistic about what you can expect during the day in terms of frequent hand washing, social distancing, all of that. If you're at home and you're the only two who are there and that's all your routine has been for all of this time, I think you wash your hands when you get up, before you eat, after you eat, and toileting, and if anything, you do something during the day. That's reasonable. Don't obsess about it.
And can you talk about, I recall when we did the survey, people commenting in about their person is sleeping more. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about, infusing routine, but also how much sleep the person should be getting? When should we be concerned about it?
Right. Okay. So we know that sleep changes in the course of dementia, and people do gradually sleep longer. But I think I would use as my kind of marker, where were they 2 or 3 weeks ago? And where are they now? And if we're seeing more sleep during the course of the day, it means that we need to kind of get the activity more structured and engage with them in the activity, right? Sometimes you've got so many years together and so many ways of interacting that you just think, well, I put the adult coloring books there for her, but she's not using them. Well, that's a sign, right? When we talk about that ability, she can't self-initiate now, which means I need to self-initiate with her. So I might sit down and say, I'm going to do this page. Which one do you want to do? Would you like the red crayon or would you like the green, for instance, right? So oftentimes that excessive sleep starts to come from boredom. The other side of that is sometimes it's convenient when our person sleeps, right? Maybe we're not getting the best night at sleep, and during the day, it's kind of nice to regroup a little bit. But remember that we're also very focused on quality of life, right? The one thing we hear from the public and even within families is this is no quality of life, and yet the person with dementia, we can talk to them for a long time and they all indicate that life is still worth living. And why? They'll say, oh, my family, my dog. So we want to make quality of life, and that means we want them to be engaged. We want them to enjoy something. And when we interact with them, we're kind of building a new relationship from what was into a new relationship, because we're now meeting them at their level and not trying to keep them where they were. It's kind of a long-winded response, but I hope that answered your question.
No, definitely. And one last question that I wanted to touch on with you is how can we use TV in routine, or should we use television?
Oh, television as a whole becomes sort of the main activity for people with dementia. Often that's when we see that, it's a sign that, yeah, their ability to map out their day and to initiate activities is falling off. TV needs to be about positive. And when it's about negative or dysfunction all day long, that can contribute to negative mood, negative or weird thinking. So the person who is glued to CNN, to Fox News all day, likes all the crime shows, we really have to limit that, because there's such a risk for depression and anxiety and delusional or confused or suspicious thinking with that. So think older programs, think comedy, think Hallmark Channel, Nature Channel, Disney, depending on where your person is in the process. And limit the TV, mix it up again. Okay, we had our favorite program. Let's go out and check the mail. And now when we come back, let's sit down and have a snack, because it was hot out there. I need some lemonade. And maybe I can pull out a puzzle, or maybe I can pull out a book and read out loud to the person, and then we can have a discussion about it.
Those are such great ideas, Hella. Thank you so much for sharing with us this morning.
Thank you.
I think these were all important reminders of how beneficial routine is, not just for the person with dementia, but for caregivers as well. It reminds me of a quote that I often, when I'm teaching one of my classes, talking about the importance of routine, I always share this quote from May Sarton, who said, "Routine is not a prison, but a way to freedom from time."
Yeah.
So really touching on how much more efficient you can be as well when you have a routine that you're working around.
Exactly. It allows the day to flow with much better efficiency. That being said, I think the other important thing is not to be so rigid that there isn't room for a little flex, or we're in the moment, we're really enjoying this, let's stay with this a little bit longer, or it's going to be a tough day, maybe we'll let this go and work from there. But do encourage your person to get dressed every day, just as you should get dressed. It's easy to just, right? The jokes are there about, I had to wash my sweatsuit, so I had something to sleep in tonight. Keep that going. That's equally important.
Thank you again, Hella. I think we could talk to you all day about this.
All day long.
But such valuable information and important reminders for us. I think, Janice, you had mentioned any of you who are listening who have family members or friends who are nurses. What is this week, Janice?
Well, it is Nurses Week. So today is the official Nurses Day. So happy Nurses Day today. Happy Nurses Week. Wow, what an incredible group of people. My mom is a retired nurse. My daughter is becoming nurse, and I have so many people that I know that are nurses, dear friends. Thank you for the impact that you're making, especially right now. We honor you today.
And thank you all of you for joining us again for this happy half hour. Our challenge once again, take one step. Try to find ways to infuse routine back into your life if you feel like that's kind of been stripped from you because of current conditions. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. We'll look forward to seeing you next week at Happy Half Hour. Be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with each other.
Great.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.